Hello and welcome back to another video. My name's Emily and this is my YouTube channel, The Simple Stitcher. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, it's great to have you back. I'm just working on my Chatelaine, my Mushroom and Fern Mandala, and I'm working on the there's a triangle section, which if you've seen in my previous videos, if you've watched them, that comes out here. I'm using the gold black PB30 petite treasure braid for this section. And this is the inner of a inner section of one triangle, and then there'll be another line of this black gold petite treasure braid that comes out around it. I just started stitching it and had enormous trouble anchoring the thread. You know, those moments when it just doesn't matter, like you think you've got it anchored behind, you've got it lined up, and then you look and it's just not anchored. I did that about 3 times before I finally had it anchored. But anyway, all good. We're stitching away now. So this is my weekly stitch and chat. So we're in spring now here. So the weather's slowly starting to warm up. We've gone from cold, pretty much all cold, wet days. Well, not wet, but cold days or mild weather, to getting days where the weather's a bit warmer and we're getting more sunshine. And so it's really nice because we're getting that hint of spring that's starting to come through. It's still very early spring. As for many of you, it's still very early autumn, but here it's very early spring and the weather's just starting to be really lovely. So if you've been following my videos, you'd know I'd started some seedlings. So I've been really excited because all of my seedlings that I started about 3 weeks ago now have come up, except for some cucamelons. One cucamelon that I started has come up. The other little pot that I started, and it's only just come up and it's been 3 weeks. The other cucamelons haven't come up yet. And then the other thing that hasn't come up yet is, and I don't think it's going to, were my red velvet sunflowers. I started 2 little starter pots, seedling pots of seed pots of the red velvet sunflowers, and they don't seem to have taken. So I'm pretty excited because all the tomatoes that I started have taken and multiple seeds have germinated, so I'm going to have to work out how to separate them. And then my okras have started. I thought they weren't going to, but they've come up in the last couple of days. They've been slower. And even my teddy bear sunflowers, which I thought weren't going to come up, have germinated in the last, or I can see them starting. Just trying to find my scissors. It's hard to talk when you've got a needle in your mouth, which I know you're not supposed to do, but anyway. Yeah, so everything's come up. So even if I get one of the cucamelons come up, like that's pretty cool. So I'm pretty excited about that. One of my sunflowers is giant. It's almost already outgrowing the lid of the container. I watered them today. I think I went too long without giving them a water. I think I watered them on the weekend and then I hadn't watered them for about 3 or 4 days. And I think you're supposed to water them every 2 to 3 days. But anyway, I gave them a big water last night, and since I've done that, like even like just watering them last night, since I've done that, like you wouldn't believe how they'd shot up. It was like they'd stopped growing or germinating because they weren't moist enough. But it's a fine line because I'm new and I'm learning all of this. Like they're not supposed to be really wet, but then if they're too wet, they don't do well. But if they're too dry, they don't do well either. So it's a bit tricky. But anyway, oh no, that's knotted. Gave them a little bit of a water last night, tipped some water over the top and then put some water in the bottom of the tray. And then I was a little bit worried that I'd overwatered them. So I left the lid of the little germination, the little hothouse off them today to sort of dry them out a little bit. And they don't really need it too much, I don't think, now because they're in a warm environment, so warm-ish environment. So I think I'll put the lid on when I go to bed tonight, but during the day I might take the lid off. So I'm just got to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and I need 24, 23, 24. So yeah, I'm a little bit excited about that. So this weekend I'm going to be starting, I've got a second tray of the little indoor incubator or hothouses, and I'm going to start a second tray of seedlings. I'm going to see how I go, but I want to start more dwarf sunflowers, which have come up, and sunflowers, which I'm going to plant along the driveway. I'm going to try the red velvets again and see if I can get a second round to germinate this time. Maybe they'll take. And then I bought last weekend, I bought a bunch of new seeds. So I bought basil because I'm going to do basil. I bought basil seeds. I bought habanero chilies, which I think are actually really hot, but I really like chilies. So with the chilies, I'm going to make, depending on how many I get, I'm going to try making like chili jam or some sort of chili preserve, because we don't eat that many fresh chilies, but I love like chili oils and dried chilies and all those amazing sorts of things. So I'm going to try and make like something like that. So I bought habanero chilies, but I do think that they're super hot. But anyway, and I'm not a like super hot person, but for chilies. But anyway, they had the seeds at the nursery and they look like they would be interesting chilies to grow. They look pretty. So I'm going to give them a go, but I'm probably going to get another type of chili, at least another one, maybe 2 to grow, to get some variety. And then I bought seeds I bought dahlia seeds. So I'm going to start them. I bought zinnia seeds. I'm going to start them, just mixed packets, mixed colours. I bought bergamot flowers, which I'm excited about because I love bergamot oil. I'm not sure if that's the same thing or not. I need to look it up. But I bought bergamot seeds. I bought echinacea seeds. I love the echinacea flower. It's one of my favourites. It's so beautiful, so pretty. So I bought them. And then I bought, that might be it, bergamot, zinnia, dahlia, and echinacea. Yeah, 4 types of flowers. So I'm going to start some flower seeds this weekend. So hopefully they come up, and then I can get them when they're ready into the garden. That'll be really exciting. And then I'm going to go back to the nursery. I need to get more of the little, I'm starting them in these little like biodegradable paper cups that you just, once the seedling's big enough and ready, you just plant it straight into the ground in the little cup, and the little paper cup breaks down around it. So I need to get some more of them because they fit really well within the trays that I purchased. And then I'm going to have a look at the seedlings. I might get some more vegetables to start, maybe. Like maybe some more chilies. And I've got to have a think about what other vegetables I want to do. Because I don't have a lot of space this year, I don't think. Because I just haven't been able to get my garden beds started. And I'm also going to incorporate into my garden beds some raised vegetable beds. But I have to work out what I want, work out how much space I've got, and then order them and get them delivered. So I don't think that's not going to be this year. That'll be a next year evolution to the garden. So I'm not going to have like super heaps of space, but I can plant it in pots, all in pots or whatever. Just get little plastic pots. But I've just got to keep that in mind with what I'm selecting. So I'm going to do that. And then last weekend I also got a dahlia root. No, it's not a root. What are they called? Tuber, maybe? Called Emily Jane, and it's really pretty. And Emily's my first name and Jane's my middle name, so I couldn't resist. They're bloody expensive though, $13 for one set of tubers. But I got them, so I'm going to plant them up so they can come up. So I'm excited about that one. I'll just have to make sure I know where they are and then dig them up each year. So that it comes up again. So that's very exciting. Now, just got to work out my next bit. So 1, 2, 3, fourth one. 1, 2, 3, fourth one. Okay, so I start here. Just working out where I'm starting my next part of this little border. Yeah, so that's exciting. And then on the weekend I had emergency garden intervention for my hibiscus. I bought a hibiscus last summer probably. Would have been when it was optimal for the nurseries to be selling it. And it's this beautiful vibrant pink with orange centre. And it's just divine. And I hadn't planted it yet because, again, being in a new house, I've got to prepare the garden beds and I haven't had a chance to do it. And I didn't quite know what I was going to do last year with the garden beds. So I went to put it in the ground and then realised that my soil was super clay. And it wasn't going to be well enough draining for a hibiscus. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to put it in and then, like, it die. So I kept it in the pot. With the intention of keeping an eye on it, which I've done since I got it. And it did really well. Like, it was fine up until like it got through winter, because I was a bit worried being a hibiscus, because hibiscuses my understanding is they're tropical plants, but they're selling them at my plant nursery on the coast down here. So, you know, I thought it would have a bit of a chance. So I kept an eye on it through winter, kept it in a sunny spot so it got the sun that it liked, and tried to make sure it had the water up and it was one, but without being overwatered, because you know in winter a lot of plants don't like to be watered. They like to they sort of go dormant, and they don't like wet roots because they don't need it. So I kept an eye on it, and it did. I'm just ending this thread. And it did well. Like, it didn't do well, but it didn't do bad. Like, it didn't die or anything. So we got all the way through to winter. And we got through to end of winter. And started spring, and then all of a sudden all its leaves all curled up and drooped and got pale and dried out, and it had been green and shiny the whole time. And I was like, it wasn't last weekend I noticed it, it was during the week last week. But obviously I couldn't do anything about it until the weekend. So I was like, oh my God, what's been happening? And I checked the soil, and the soil was dry, but it wasn't on top. But if you move the topsoil aside a little bit, like if there was some moistness to the soil, and Craig said he'd been watering it. And Craig's generally the waterer in our household. But it was a little bit too dry for my liking. But like I said, it's been winter, so I haven't wanted to overwater it or water it too much. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was a lack of water, or it had been too long in its pot, because it was still in the original pot from the plant nursery where we bought it. So this weekend I just went and I got a new pot for it. I got one size up, because it needed to go. I think it needed to go into a bigger pot, but I didn't want to shock it by putting it into like a way bigger pot than what it was already in. So I went about one size up on its pot. I put fresh potting mix in the bottom. I checked the roots underneath it. They didn't look like they were rotting or anything, and then teased, and they didn't look too root bound. So I teased them out, and then, but what I did notice was the top layer of soil, which I hadn't realised previously, had come away, and the roots were, the top fine roots were exposed, and some plants don't cope with that if that happens. And so I'm wondering if those top roots being exposed had upset it. So I obviously repotted it in the new pot. I got a pink one, just a little plastic pink pot with a pink saucer. It was like $5 or something, and then the saucer was a couple of bucks. But it looks pretty, and I'll use it. I got that pot. I intend for the hibiscus to go in the ground, so I got a plastic pot. I don't like those really basic black plastic pots. So I didn't want to get one of them. So I got just a nice cheapish pink one. And it looks good. And I repotted it, and then I made sure there was a layer of soil on top to cover the roots. Like I put a protective cover on top of its roots, and then I put some loosened mulch on top of that away from its trunk to keep any moisture in and add an extra level of protection. And then I got a sea salt spray, which I'm trying out from the plant nursery. So it's sea salt, but you spray it on the leaves. So normally sea salt, you dilute it in water and then you apply it to the base of the plant and it goes into the soil. This one is sprayed on the leaves. So I'm not 100% sure about it. it seemed like it'd be easier. Like when I did it, the spray bottle wasn't very good and straight away it started stuffing up. And it seemed to go everywhere except on the leaves of the plant. So I think I might go back to the old version sea salt and just apply it to the base. I think it'll be more economical. But I didn't know and I was giving it a go. So, and I'll certainly use up that bottle. I gave all my plants a feed in my front little garden. Sprayed them all. And it says you've got to be careful on there, which makes sense too, because if you apply it when it's too warm, then it'll burn the leaves, because obviously you're putting like a sticky substance type thing on their leaves, and then you get sun on it, and yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But I did that. So I applied sea salt to its leaves, mulch, some new soil, one size bigger pot, and then I gave it a really big water. So I soaked it through and then let the saucer fill up and then let it sit in the water from the saucer, and then just left that to dry out by itself. And I looked at it today and it's looking better, which is really good. I was so pleased. It's still not out of the woods, but its leaves had perked up. They were standing up properly, and it had a little bit more colour in its leaves. So they weren't quite as pale. They had some more green. So I think we've got a little bit of a road to recovery, but hopefully if I keep on it and feed it and make sure it gets some water, I think I might find that it's okay and I will be able to get it thriving. Hang on, 1, 2, 3. Let me do one more. Until I'm ready to plant it. So that's a good thing. And then all my little cactuses out there, I've got cactuses out the front as well, little cactuses. I quite like them. I never used to like them. I've got some cactus in a little hanging pot. And then I've got some other cactus that I purchased that are just individual, that are in their own little pots. Like little tiny pots. Which, like, if the pot's too small, it's not necessarily great for like, they look cute, but they're not great for plants because there's not enough nourishment and it's hard to keep them moist, and you know, they're hard to maintain quality soil and water requirements and stuff like that. But cactus, like, they live off the sniff of an oily rag, so having a cactus in a little pot is actually, like, it's okay. So I've got 3 cactus in these little small pots, and they're really happy. They're doing well. They're growing, and they look really good. But I looked at them the other day, and they've got 3 of my. I've got in the hanging pot. I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 4 cactus, and then I've got 3 individual little ones separately potted up. And of those 7 cactus, 3 are actually flowering or about to flower. So 3 of them, yeah, they're about to flower. One's got 1 little flower come out, and the others have all got buds on them. So I was pleased by that, because that means they're happy. And I love the cactus when they flower. They're so pretty. It's like they're these really spiky, you know, threatening plants, and then they get these really delicate little beautiful flowers. One of them's come up with a bright hot pink little flower, and it's got some more buds. Another one gets flowers, they're a dull colour, but they come out on a stalk, and it's like a stalk, and then at the tip it's got the little flowers hanging off. if I get a chance, I'll take some photos and add them to the end of this. And the one with the stalk flowers has got 2 stalks growing, which I've never seen it have before. So I was very excited about that. And then another one that's flowering, I've not seen that flower before, so that means they're happy. So I was pleased about that. And my rock orchids are about to flower. I've got buds all over them. One of them has got buds all over it, so that's exciting. And the rosemary that I planted a few weeks ago, the ground cover rosemary seems to be doing well and happy in the spot that I've put it in. It's got new growth all over it. The lavender that I put in, that I'd had in a pot again since last summer, because I didn't have garden beds, and then it started to look really sickly, so I depotted it, and I did plant that because I put that in the front garden bed for the pollinators and that. That seems to be okay. It's not made any big, like, hasn't got any really obvious growth on it. But it might be adjusting, because it was kept in a pot for 6 months, and which obviously wasn't big enough, and it was pretty root bound, and it had a slug in the bottom of the pot, which I was like, oh, so the slug's been nesting in there and sliming everywhere and impacting its roots and that, so it might take a period of recovery. But that's in the ground, and that seems to be pottering along, but I think I might need to get through spring and maybe into summer and just keep the water up to it and give it some feeds, and then that will come good now that it's in the ground. And then this burgundy blood red daisy that I bought from the market, bought it from the local farmers market. It was one of those funny ones though, because I didn't want to, I snapped it up when I saw it, because it was this dark blood red daisy that I hadn't seen before, and I thought it was really pretty. It was like $8. But you know when you buy plants from farmers markets and that, and they're like home growers that sort of do a little bit of like gardening work on the side, and sometimes the plants are really good, and then other times they're a bit spindly and a bit, you know, they're not as good quality as what they would be if you bought them from the plant nursery or somewhere, and they're not necessarily as hardy. Well, this one started to peak, like get a bit sickly really quickly. So I ripped it out of the pot and got it into the ground, and it seems to be okay. It's got new growth on it. I think it had a period of establishing, like, you know, getting settled and getting over the shock of being transplanted. It's not really flowering very much anymore, and it's peak flowering season, peak flowering for a lot of the daisies and stuff I've noticed around. But I think it's got lots of new growth all over it, so I'm thinking it'll come good. It just needs a bit more TLC and a bit more food as well. So I'm hoping over the spring, summer that those plants really take off and start holding their own. Because I've put them in either for the pollinators, to do, you know, to be food for the birds, the bees and the insects, or to be ground covers to help me keep weeds down and things like that. So we'll see. But I'm hoping that they come good. It's tricky when you can't get the plants straight into the ground when you know, when you purchase them. And there's just times where I've seen stuff and I'm like, oh, no, I need that plant. But the flowers that I'm going to germinate from seed will all go in the front little section or down my driveway. or in pots, whatever, and then till I've got my garden beds going, and then the vegetables will be in pots. And I will combine some where I can into the garden beds as well, because I'm all about, you know, like, I think it's a good idea to have like a combination of edible garden and non-edible garden. That appeals to me. What's happened here? So I'll do that. But we will see how it all works out. Okay, so I'm just going to finish off this part of the border. Oh, that didn't. Finish off this little bit of the border, and then I think that's it. So I hope you've enjoyed this little stitch and chat. I hope you've enjoyed seeing me working on my chatelaine. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I'll answer them as soon as I can. In the meantime, I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I will see you in my next video. Okay, bye.